sort of safety equipment I would recommend for the occasional track day? Well, first and foremost, a good helmet. And make sure it's got a current Snell reading. Every driving group has a different requirement for Snell, but obviously that's the first important thing. As you start out, I mean, just having a good seat belt. Important thing is brake pads and brake fluid. You need to have the right brake pads for the track, and high temperature brake fluids so you don't boil your fluid and end up with no brakes. Something else that I always recommend, and people might think it's odd for safety, is a good set of driving gloves. And the reason is, I've taught a lot of people over the years, usually people that don't do many track days or the first couple of track days, you look at their hands and they're doing like a death grip on the steering wheel. Having gloves on help reduce the stress in your hands, so your hands don't get tired by the end of the session. So I strongly recommend that. And then as you start progressing through, then I would suggest like a harness belt, which is over the shoulder, and we've got some of those in one click. It's pretty easy because you need to be focused on driving and not trying to brace yourself moving around the car. And another thing is, you start getting into intermediate class, driving shoes. You're going to say, well, I got my tennies. They work good. Well, yeah, except for the thing about driving shoes is they got a really, really thin sole. And by having that thin sole, you get a lot better feel on your pedals. I call them my dancing shoes. Every time I go on track, I put my dancing shoes on. So from a safety standpoint, I mean, that's where you start. And then after you start moving up, after the harness belt, you might want to consider a seat, because the last thing you want to do is be wallowing around in your seat trying to brace yourself with your leg.